have actually, if we have, homework that are available, and also some there.
All right. Thank you, please. The meeting's going to start. Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to the Village of New Paltz Zoning Board of Appeals, dated Monday, December 13th, 2022. The meeting is now in session. We have a few items on the agenda tonight. We have two public hearings that are open, one for 137 North Chestnut Street and another for 64-66 Plains Road. I see we have some people here tonight, so if you're here for a public, to speak in the public hearing, you'll get a chance. We have a few applications to review. I'm going to move immediately. There's one action item on here that we'll do first, and it's an adjournment of 123 Main Street for another month. Can I get a motion, please, to adjourn the meeting to January 10th, 2023 for the 123 Main Street application, which is a appeal of an action or interpretation by the building inspector? Second.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, so Autumn, that has been moved back another month as we go. And we have two public hearings open. We've got some people here. Who's here to speak at 137 North Chestnut? Is anybody here to speak at that? One person is here to speak at that. Is anybody here to speak at 64-66 Plains? And we have two people here for that. Ashley, can you hear me?
Yes.
For the 137 North Chestnut Street, before I get started with that one, the SEQA has not been completed yet, so the public hearing would remain open. There's really not much we can do tonight then, with that still being open. I mean, we can talk a little bit, but am I correct? It's still open?
So you do have to open the public hearing first by motion. You haven't done that yet. So that would be the
Okay,
first
I
thing.
thought we just scheduled it. I'm sorry. Before I open them,
But you are correct that the planning board is still working on the seeker, so you don't need to keep the public hearing open necessarily, but you can't make any decision until.
right,
That's
I'm going to keep it. Well, we're going to have another month on that then. So I'm going to do 137 North Chestnut Street first. Can I get a motion to open the public hearing for 137 North Chestnut Street? Second?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that public hearing is open. If I have some comments that I want to read and discuss first, after those here who are present or on a Zoom would like to speak. So if anybody would like to come up and speak on behalf of for or against as a public hearing, come on up, introduce yourself. And
I'm Patrick O'Donnell. I own the property that is behind 137 on Huguenot Street. And I had a question, if I might. The height variance, does that include any kind of HVAC or solar panels that would be on top of the building?
that is a total height. If you have the plan of it, and I don't want to get too much into it back and forth, the plan of it is, I believe, the height of the floors. So each was, so he's not really requesting a variance per se for what's on top of the roof.
Okay, so they can go as high as they want.
Well,
No.
the 30, everything would be at or
That's all
below the
inclusive.
37-foot core. Everything, yeah,
Answer to your question, I think, yes.
yes.
The total height variance requested is 2 feet 4 inches. He can't go higher than 37 4.
Everything.
Inclusive of-
Okay. I just wanted to say, just as my understanding is that the property hasn't been purchased yet and there's nothing built on the property, that they would build within the current plan and the current allowances by the village, as there's no pressing need or urgency based upon modifying something that is in existence.
Is that
So
everything?
Are we correct to interpret that as saying you prefer to not grant height variance? Is that your preference? Is that, I just want to make sure I'm understanding. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah, we don't ask questions back and forth at a public, during public comments during this part of the session. We just listen. We take it all in.
Oh, are we not supposed to ask questions?
Well, that was, I think, a fair question. We don't engage in dialogue is what we're saying, unless we're really
We're not
confused.
debating.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anybody here who would like to speak to 137 North Chestnut Street? Is North Chestnut Street here?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have anything for us in the way of further paperwork?
We have the affidavit for that the publication of the notices were sent out and the posting was done. I can provide that to all of them.
Okay.
When are we gonna get the elevations that we asked for the last meeting? We asked for all the elevations, north, south, east, west, and we asked for a top view showing the building. When, we were supposed to have that at this meeting, are we gonna get that?
It's still part of the public hearing, or are we going to address this under the application?
The public hearing is still open, and I'm going to put some comments in. I didn't want to jump too far ahead. That's okay. I just wanted to see if you had anything that you wanted to bring up first before I get into these public comments, or anything in the way of a financial that you wanted us to review.
Not as part of the hearing, Mr. Chairman.
Well, no, it stays open. The public hearing is going to, I'm going to leave the public hearing open another month.
No, I understand that, but you're gonna move on from the public.
Yeah,
hearing.
I will. I will. I want to just review anything you had as we go through this.
Okay.
All right, so I just wanted, just for the record, Autumn, I don't have to put this in, Ashley, but I wanted to address a couple of things we have. I have 4 letters here from village residents or people or business owners in the village. One of them is from Rosemary, and pardon me if I pronounce your name wrong, Salden Fawson, who is against the proposed variance, and she based her decision to not be in favor of it based on the NBR rules that have been put in to effect, and she feels that this would set a bad precedent, as this is one of the first ones to come up under the new zoning. So I wanted to just kind of let her see that. We're going to put this in record as well as we get time. I have one from Mike Beck, who is in favor of a mixed use. He states the 2 important criteria for granting an area variance is it a significant variance as far as the request? He feels it's not. And he feels that the applicant outweighs the hardship to the community. There's a benefit to this, to the building. Obviously, we'll get into what the benefits are. That's an opinion. We'll go from, we'll take that as I go into 2 more of these. One is from Stana Weisberg. She'd like to add her support to this. She lives pretty close to the proposed development. She feels that the benefits outweigh the downside. She does make a statement that her only hope is we can have as much actual affordable housing as possible. I want you to keep that in mind as we go forward, affordable housing. I have one here from John Bacello. I'm Italian, so I should say that better than I am, but you can feel free to laugh at my jokes anytime. They're pretty bad. No, it wasn't that funny anyway, but he's in support of the housing project, of this housing project. He feels that there is, he's in favor of this mostly for the ability to have affordable housing in New Paltz. I wanted to put these 4 in for now. I'm going to move on from the public hearing. I want to make a statement, and then I'm going to have you guys come up real quick. We're not going to be able to vote or do anything tonight, but I'll open it for questionings from the board members. So with that said, I'm going to close out that. I'm not closing the public hearing, but we're going to end that debate since I think I've got everybody in the record. Is there anybody on the Zoom call who would like to speak? Thank you. Okay.
So did
this
you want
board-
to adjourn the public hearing for another
No, I
month?
like to leave it open, Ashley.
That's what yeah, so by motion to adjourn it over to January?
Oh, okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn this? We'll continue it further on for the January meeting. Second,
Aye.
all in favor? Aye. All right, so this will remain open for the next meeting. We're just gonna finish it up right here. This board cannot do any type of quid pro quo in the way of affordable housing. I'm not gonna touch it, okay? But when I see village members or business owners say that there is a benefit to it, the greater the benefit, the better. Correct me if I'm wrong, you have, if there is a financial thing that we are going to look at here, that everything in it should be included, including the amount of affordable housing units that you plan to propose, whether that's the bare minimum or you decide to go further than that. Okay, that's my statement for that. Take that for what it's worth. Again, I can't offer no quid pro quo based on any of that as far as anything. except the 5 factors that we deal with. So if we feel your building is against the character of the neighborhood, and I ask you to change that to fit more the character of the neighborhood, that's something I'm within my purview to do. As far as anything outside of that, I'm not. But if the town has spoken on some of these public comments, which I can address and be within my purview to say that, listen to them carefully. I'll open it up if you guys want to come up and you want to talk I'm not going to take this for a long period of time because I have another public hearing I want to open up. And we can't do anything tonight without a CEQA completed anyway, as far as we can debate a little bit more, but we're probably going to debate this further. I'll open it up. If you guys have anything you want to present to us, this is the time to do it.
I know, how are you? Am I able to make this a general statement? I don't know. I'm new to
Sure, as
this
soon as
whole
we're
thing.
ready for it. Just introduce yourself,
Sure,
what your relationship is to the project,
sure.
and then you can start with a reasonably,
I'll be brief. I'm not a polished speaker, to be honest with you. I'm super nervous even sitting here. So my name is Scott Arnold. I own Rycor, which is right next to the piece of property where the roller skating rink was, which we did purchase 2 years ago. We've owned that for 2 years now. And the building was badly dilapidated and kind of sitting there uninhabited for a number of years. And I look at it every day from my business next door, and I kind of ask zero place coming in and think, first of all, I've been in this community since I was a little kid. I was born and raised here. I lived in Gart, and I'm not a good speaker, I'm sorry. I lived on Gatehouse Road, which is, part of Mohawk. I could see the gatehouse from my house. So always the big nature hiker, big community member, food drives, toy drives, everything you can imagine. I'm part of this. I literally love this community and everybody in it. And my vision for this was not to come in and have a cash grab and build some big monstrosity that would be something that, some person out in some of the country benefited from. I have employees that work for me that can't afford to live here. I have friends that can't afford to live here. My mom couldn't afford to live here in retirement, so had to move to Virginia. I helped her with that. I lived in the house with her on Gatehouse Road to help her stay here as long as I could. And ultimately, she couldn't even afford to retire in place. This is a tough community on its residents. And my vision for this place, and the reason I really want to see that extra floor go on there is, yes, it does make it more of a financially viable project, because with the taxes on that property and what we paid for it, which was like $1.25 million to only pay $100,000 to take the building down. So now we have over almost $2 million into it already, and we got nothing there, right? A piece of blank property. To get one story of commercial, which I don't think is what this town really needs. I think it really needs the residential. But to get one level of residential out of this doesn't even feel right. I mean, as a person, it doesn't feel right. So I understand we're asking for 2 feet, and this is just me not knowing the politics, not knowing the laws. I'm just talking from my heart. I really feel like for this to be a good addition to this community, it needs that. It needs to be able to house more people, for people to be able to retire in place here and enjoy where they lived and be able to move here if they work here. And that is my vision for it. It's to bring that piece of property into the community in a way that it works for the community. We have more than half of that property in the back is going to stay open green space for recreating. It's going to be less permeable surface than what it had when we purchased it. We're reducing the footprint on the property. It's going to be a green energy building. I am a green energy company. I'm a big environmentalist, big community activist. All I do is green in our company, and we want that to represent my beliefs in my personal life and my professional life. So my goal really here is for everybody that's involved is for this to be a happy addition to our community that benefits the community in every way. This is not, and I'm open to feedback on it. And I have no preset notions of what it needs to be. We're flexible, and I want your feedback, and I want to incorporate the community's feedback and your feedback into the project. That's really all I have to say.
Thank you. Do you have anything you want to offer?
I think Scott hit the high points. From a numbers perspective, one of the challenges that we came across with the height and why we asked for the variance was specifically in regards to the residential units. We're asking for 9 feet ceiling heights in those units. In order to accomplish that, it has pushed us up. There was a discussion about, well, you're exceeding the first floor height and making it 12 feet, where the code only requires 11. We understand that position. 12 is somewhat of the standard. We've had an internal discussion about the possibility of considering lowering the first floor height to 11. However, it would still require us to have a variance in order to accommodate the 9-foot ceilings. Noed asked a question at the prior meeting about how an 8-foot ceiling versus a 9-foot ceiling may affect the value of the apartments and how that would translate potentially into tax dollars to the community. We've spoken with a number of realtors, in particular, Greg Berardi of Berardi Realty. He is preparing a letter for us. We will submit it to the board in advance of the next meeting to articulate that when you take a ceiling height from 9 feet to 8 feet, you will probably experience in this market about a 10% reduction in rent, which would then directly translate into a 10% reduction in your property taxes and property value, because these projects are valued based on the income and expense method, not just on the construction costs. They're based on profitability. The same would apply for any affordable units that would be put into the project. Their taxes will be based on the affordable rents and based on the profitability of those units. So that's one of the things that have been brought up, and it's one of the things that we've been researching and trying to get an opinion on, and we will have that for you at the next meeting. As far as Sean had asked about side elevations and a top view, I think when you say that you want to see kind of a roof plan, is that what I'm understanding, Sean? Okay.
And I'd like the form filled out. The form's not filled out. The form that we give you, it's the easiest form in the world that says see attached, see attached, see attached. That's just fill out the form. It's such a basic thing. We want to, you're asking for height elevate. You're asking us for a height variance and you're asking us for the things. Give us what we need. You're not giving us any of the stuff we need. You're not filling out the form and you're not giving us anything to look at.
Well, just so we're clear, we did provide an elevation drawing in the
You
packet.
provided one elevation of the front. You didn't provide any of the sides or the backs or any of that. You give us one picture of
Specifically,
elevations.
the side
That's-
that would be, you'd be looking at,
Right.
it just feels like this is gonna be like, just a big blank wall, you know, from the information I have here.
No, it'll,
Because the front's going to be broken up by the commercial and the residential and, yeah, so
okay.
I just,
It won't be a blank wall. Obviously, there'll be architecture there and windows and it'll be appropriately scaled. It's not like we're gonna just have a nice facade and then everything else is gonna be, you know, of an
what about the
L-
units? Show me that
The
then.
heating and cooling units, where are you gonna put them?
there will be units on the side of the building
I like the
And-
side that faces my building for the units on it.
and there will be units on the roof.
So that'll be visible from the road. You can see it from the side of the building. So they're not going to be on the inside part of the L, because it's an L.
Correct. We would
So that'll be
rather
seen
not
out there.
Be in the front. But we would imagine them being on that side, and it also could, as a secondary option, be on the roof. But obviously, we want to make sure that that's not gonna.
But I believe though, however, those units on the side, and please, if Ashley's watching and can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that is allowed within the code and
It's not disallowed.
I don't believe it's part of
So
the,
I get it. I know where he's going with it. I understand. I can tie anything to the character. You're right. I don't have to say that I can reject it based on that. I cannot. But I can lay out 3 factors here in our 5 factors, and one of them is the character of the neighborhood, and I can tie it to just 202 feet, 4 inches if I want to.
And if you
So-
were, and if you
Hold
were,
on, Charlie. So if I do just tie some, I'm making no quid pro quo here. That has to be on the side or not on the side. I want to make that clear.
If I could
But I
just
am looking at,
to
go
the,
ahead, Ashley.
the mechanical equipment, it's whether ground mounted or roof mounted, it has to be completely screened from adjacent properties in a way that's consistent with the architecture of the main building.
Right.
So
Be my goal, and I'm the person who will be looking at that the most. It has to be nice.
Yeah, your units, right? You're right.
They are my units, yes,
Okay.
they are.
and this is the thing, if you wanted this height variance because you were gonna put all the units on the top of it, which I think we would all agree is a much cleaner look and looks prettier. If that was the reason you were doing it, we would probably have more understanding for your variance as opposed to you're just doing it so you can make the rents more, which is the purpose of this, is to make the rents less. Because you said the rents will go up 10% if you have the nicer
It's not-
9-foot ceiling.
It's not
So if we're
necessarily-
trying to keep rents down, maybe we should not allow it to keep the rents down. If we're gonna save, if the people who are living there are gonna save 10% because the ceilings are 8 foot, you're sort of asking us to say no.
I'm listening to what you're saying. I don't want to jump in, but if I want to accommodate what you guys want, I am not a developer. This is my first go at this, but I want it to be right for the ZBA, for the planning board, for the community. If it sounds like you'd like to see the units on the roof, we could certainly do that.
I'll say this, from an aesthetics and the character of the neighborhood, we're building, it's the character of the village.
Right.
I want to make that a macro statement rather than just that block. So, I mean, I can tell you that, and this is not based on precedent, but if I granted a height variance based on a gentleman putting a gable roof on because I felt that was more in line with the character of the neighborhood. So sometimes whether it's 2 feet, you've got a building there at Zero Place that's tall. So logically, again, I can't use that building, but it doesn't. That's true. That's all I'll say. But I mean, as far as the heights go, and we look at the heights, you probably would look on this on the outside and say, well, we're not going to be as tall as Zero Place. It's a slam dunk. But I would be logical I wouldn't blame you if you thought that before you came here. It's a logical assumption to make, but that's a completely different animal that we can't go there on. But I'll say this, if you needed 5 feet to hide that, to make the building, or to put a gable on it, to make the building attractive, I could easily take that into consideration and I asked for something along those lines in the last meeting, as far as, a gable roof might be more aesthetically in line with the character of the village.
The challenge with that, Mr. Chairman, is Scott, how would you know that better than I do, how would the units go on a gabled roof where they would?
The whole roof wouldn't be gabled, just certain parts of it.
Just the facade.
You're
You
saying
mean.
Yes,
give you a
just the
gable.
So it's kind of
facade.
like a flat or semi-pitched roof there. They would work fine like
Do we
that.
have the measurements of the different, we
In fact,
talked
they'd be
about?
better.
The different
They-
heights.
they
The
operate
roof
better
isn't
out there
actually
because there's
all
more airflow.
37.
I'm okay with it.
Streamline
I would consider that more strong.
Yeah, I needed,
I would.
I
We
wouldn't.
don't have the newest drawing from AJ, but I will have.
yeah, I
You
definitely,
can see the side of the building. or
I definitely need those.
Again, so we take a look at a plan.
It's not ideal to put them on the side of a building. It's always better to have them up high, with this more airflow and, out of the elements, because obviously you get a lot more snow accumulation against the side of the building than you do on a roof of a building. So it keeps them well protected, heat pumps when they're.
I wouldn't, listen, I wouldn't want to see them up there per se. We're trying to keep the aesthetics well, and if the variance required you to do that, that would be definitely within our purview. Okay, also, and this is, like,
They're 3 feet.
Yeah.
There's 2 sizes, basically 22 inches is the low one. That's gonna be like the bedroom size units, and then the big living room type size units are gonna be 32. Now, New York State does recommend that they're 12 inches off of any finished surface for anticipated snow accumulation. So if it said 32 plus 12, it's 44. So a little under 4 feet tall with the stand that New York State requires.
So that was part of the reason that we wanted to see, because the roof height isn't consistently 37.5.
Correct.
It changes, and if those units are on there, remember last month I asked for the height of the facade in those
In those
different
areas where-
locations, because that's all gonna play a factor into how that
And
looks.
we were not
yeah.
anticipating putting all of the units on the roof, but if that's something that
Well, but
Scott
even-
thinks we can do.
Even if
You
my
certainly can.
concept in my head is that, I don't know how long this building is, say it's 100 foot long, 120 foot long. If it's 37 foot 5 inches for 120 foot, that's more to me than if it's
Right.
only that height in the middle, and then
In certain
and I need those numbers.
You don't have a line set length issue, what's our?
So we
maximum
have
distance?
65 feet that we could travel from the indoor unit to the outdoor unit. So I guess what I'm thinking, and I probably don't want to bore you guys with this.
yeah,
but
no, take that offline, guys.
We can take it
We'll
offline.
take
yeah.
that
I
offline.
know we can make it work, is what I'm saying. If you guys wanted to see.
The only-
like,
I just
what-
want-
I'm
I just need to
talking
see
out
the
loud.
numbers.
What if we went down a foot on the first floor and then asked for a 5-foot variance that puts all the equipment on the roof, but it seems like everybody's happy.
And
Is that too simple?
Yeah, something, I mean, we'd like to see that plan. It'd be
We
great.
like to see numbers, we like to see plans, we like to see.
Like to see that, and you've got here some statements from the town, and again, I'm not, that, you have 42 units?
45.
45, and what's the minimum amount of affordable housing that you have to put on
Five, it would be
10%.
10%, so it would be.
here? I can't touch that, but you've heard these public comments about what you can bring to the town.
Two of those comments, and Sean kind of like commented on this, and I'm not sure if it's exactly what he was getting at, but I understand that affordable housing as a concept is a different thing, but I'm not gonna lie that I think all of the units being 10% less with 8-foot ceilings sounds like, to me,
More affordable.
to me benefits the community more. I don't know why I would want my neighbor to pay an extra $200 a month to have a foot higher ceiling when it's not needed for quality of life at
I
all.
like the way you think, Billy.
I've lived in an 8-foot ceiling my whole life. Your house probably has 8-foot ceilings, I'm gonna assume.
Mine actually has, lower than.
If
Yeah,
you're
I
gonna
got
present,
7 foot upstairs,
if
so.
you're gonna present a
It's
financial
like
to
the town
us,
of-
I just,
I know.
if even the comments for this are saying, we'd love to approve it and more affordable housing, but approving it I know that affordable housing is a separate thing than just cheaper spots because the ceiling's lower. I
Right, right. I
understand
agree
that
with
those
that.
aren't the same thing. But
Well, I think we also understand that this is a business decision, right? This is a community decision, but there also needs to be the
There's
financial
that skill.
sustainability for it. And so there's a balance in there somewhere probably. But
that's a great point.
I appreciate.
There's a
you
balance in
recognizing
there, okay, between height, income, and affordable housing for the community.
it. I think-
Again, we can't quit pro, I got to stress that, but there's no, but, if you're gonna give us a financial and put it in front of us, I can comment on it if you do plan to do that, and hear my words well there with what I'm saying.
just back to the numbers here, like. Put on your commercial that I understand it's a concept of like the standard, but it's also within the code to not be at the 11 foot. You save that foot, you save a foot on perhaps one of the floors, and you have them priced at different points. Now we're talking 4 inches.
I really like the way you think.
I just don't understand, like.
Let me ask
when-
you a hypothetical question. Would the board consider if we lowered the first floor height to 10 feet? Because you'd have to grant us a variance for that if we wanted to do something along those lines as well.
Well, what's fascinating, Ashley, is Cody's managed to tie this into affordable housing based on what the applicant is suggesting for income. And the variance is tied to income. So can we make stronger suggestions on what we want on affordable housing then? Is it not quid pro quo? Is it a fair quid pro quo now that it's tied to a
So
financial thing?
I don't really like the phrase quid pro quo, in these
It's a
circumstances. So
negotiation.
what
I
really
get it.
the issue is, I think my understanding is what they're trying to explain with the financial aspect is the benefit to them. So under your area variance balancing test, a lot of times applicants bring in all different kinds of facts or, things that they feel warrant granting of a variance, but at the end of the day, you have to go down to your balancing
enough.
test and whether the benefit that they're seeking, so whether they're seeking, more units or they're seeking more desirable units versus the detriment to the health, safety and welfare of the community. So in that overall balance is where you then apply the 5 factors. So whether a lesser height would, whether the benefit they seek could be achieved by a lesser height of the first floor or however
Well,
that
theoretically,
is.
we're
But the
almost-
affordable
almost
housing
maybe-
component of it is really not for this.
No, I understand. We're almost able to throw that under number 2, which is the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance or changing that area variance slightly.
Yes, and
I
I
don't
think
know.
that's
We won't
on
do
them
it
to
that
then
way.
present a different option, or different,
you get it.
maybe few options. It doesn't have to be full.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I just kind of want to ask you a question to wrap. So you mentioned, and I agreed with a lot of your points when you were initially introducing why you were doing this, your employees. and your mother and having a like difficulty living here, I would encourage you, like, I know people that work for you, I work in the trades. I would encourage you to talk to a couple of your employees that might not be able to live in this area and ask them what you, like, what your price point's gonna be for monthly rent. And then find out the 2 points of what it would be 10% less if that type of person would care about an 8-foot to a 9-foot ceiling, because
They would not.
they
I
would
can tell you
not.
the answer to that
I'm like,
question.
I know, you don't need to ask them. I am this.
You're rented by my employees already.
Yeah.
So I'm,
Here's-
as they park in the empty lot right now, like, when are we gonna be able to live
Yeah.
here?
I mean, I drive by this every day. I know what your employees are just by like, I see the Jeeps, I see the trucks. I know who
Yeah.
these guys are. These are my people. They don't care.
No.
10% less rent, they care.
But you know, you hit a nerve for me also, and from a business standpoint, which you made a point that also
course.
matters, is because we all know interest rates have doubled. So construction loans have doubled,
course.
and if we can get it a little lower, if the equipment on the roof, we use the variance for that, we're actually keeping the costs down and the rents down. It's better for everybody involved, it sounds like. I think I've taken a lot from this.
All right.
Just one last question, if I could, Mr. Chairman, just back to the point. Because of our use on the first floor, we're looking at an office commercial use and not a retail use. You know, the majority of office commercial space does not require a 12-foot or an 11-foot ceiling for that matter. Would the board have an interest in seeing a plan that would propose a 10-foot ceiling height on the first floor? It's not within the NBR code because the NBR calls for an 11-foot height. But also keep in mind, because we're going to make accessible units on the first floor, which probably will be some component of the affordable units because we're going to try to market those to aging seniors. Would the board consider a lower ceiling height than the NBR code provides for?
If you go, it never hurts to ask and fill out, it would require a variance.
Sure.
Okay, on that side. It would probably be tied to this variance, so you'd have 2 variances within the structure. I don't really know now because the picture's expanded. So I wouldn't discourage you from thinking of it. It's an option. We can explore it. We're gonna come up with something.
I appreciate
Okay.
what you're thinking.
The one
Yeah,
thing I would
it's
just
an
comment on that is I don't know if there's any applicable building code height rules that might come into play, just to be cautious of those, because that's something that this board wouldn't be able to vary. So the
Yeah,
zoning
that's what
code
I'm
is
saying.
one thing, but if there's anything required by the building code, then that's a separate.
Yeah, the first thing to do is to get with Corey.
It wouldn't create a building code issue to lower the height on the
Ashley,
first
could
floor.
you repeat that? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. I apologize.
Sure, I said just to make sure that there's no building code issue created by lowering the height of the ceiling to below the 11
Yeah,
feet.
that makes
What
sense.
I would do.
She's saying from a building standards
Right.
code,
Yeah.
not from a.
Could be something.
Yeah, from the uniform, the New York State Building Code or fire
these
code
things.
versus the zoning code, because this board can't vary those.
Okay,
provisions.
so best thing to do there is,
Residential, you would have a step down.
yeah,
You would have an elevator that would have, in the current configuration, you have an elevator that's going to have to be configured in a way in which there would be a step down and.
Or dead space between
Correct.
the top of.
Well,
the
here's
first
our
floor
concern.
residential.
So then we'll have first floor units right now that would have 12 or 11-foot ceilings unless we provided for a drop down construction in those. Then we would have a dead space between floors, which we wouldn't want. So potentially, maybe we look to lower the first floor ceiling height to a 10-foot ceiling height, and then we can still pick up our 9-foot on the 2 higher floors. And it kind of crosses all the boxes off then.
well, let's, I mean, it doesn't hurt to sit down with Cody and get his thoughts on that. I have no problem reviewing that. Corey, I'm sorry.
We know Cody's thoughts.
He's Cody over here. That's Cody. But yeah, just get with Corey. I do it all the time to poor Corey. I call him Cody. So everybody's got to have some. But clear it, there first and make sure that we're not violating any New York State standards and statewide codes. I doubt we are, but just in case. And he would know. I'll be more than happy to go there with you if you wanted to sit down and talk. Get my number, not a problem. All right, I'll probably talk to anyone. So, okay, guys, so we really can't go forward with anything else right here. You've got some thoughts. We'll talk more.
Just
Thank
a question for Ashley through the board.
Sure.
If we were to propose lowering the first floor height, would we have to come in with a new application, Ashley, or could this public hearing be amended and basically continued on that point if we submitted for the next meeting?
Sorry, I was muted. You would need to fill out, I believe, a new application for the village, and then I'd think because it is adding an additional variance that it would likely need to be
Renotice.
noticed at least once with the new additional variance listed. But I think you could submit your alternative plan and see whether it's something, you know, that makes sense before going and fully applying perhaps for that variance. I know there's the difference in the height of the story versus the height of the ceiling that's allowed under the code. So I think there's perhaps a few different alternatives that you could consider and present to this board without necessarily applying for the variance until you have some feedback.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good.
We've got we're going to be opening up the public hearing again to that. So if you did things quick enough, you just tie it right into that.
I think we might, if we decided to lower the height, it would be a second variance, so we probably need a second hearing, I think is what.
Well, I'll open it up at this. I mean, if you do it quick enough, I can get you on the schedule.
Right,
Okay. I mean, you did it.
well, I think you'd have to set that.
I could set it. Well, I can't. I don't have anything to set right now, do I? So I gotta wait.
4 month out.
We'll see. Yeah, but we'll see.
Okay.
Let's figure that out.
Well, let's schedule to get with Corey, and if you can participate, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, that'd be great.
wonderful, and then,
But regardless, is those group numbers.
yes.
Yeah, let's get all that.
And
started.
I appreciate everybody's time. So I feel like I've got a really good flavor of what you're looking for, and it sounds like maybe a lower building to count up those variants for the roof and lower the cost housing is maybe what you're more interested in hearing about.
And the other thing too is like, if the reason you're making the building taller is to make it prettier. Okay, we're pretty flexible. If you're doing it just to, I want to make 10% more rent,
No.
that's a different discussion.
And
Yeah, so if your goal is to make the building prettier, we're pretty accommodating on that. If your goal is we want to maximize profits and make the thing ugly, then that's a different situation.
just on that point, and we'll give you more on it, but it's not,
This is also realizing that I have not seen any of the elevations. I've seen one elevation from the front. So I'd have no idea how pretty or ugly this building is because we've asked for the drawings we haven't gotten. So if we had the drawings, we could actually have a good conversation about it. But we don't have the drawings, so we can't really have a good conversation because we don't know what the building looks like because we don't have the elevations.
How many units total would it be as far as heating and cooling?
So there'd be for the 2 bedrooms, 2 units, and for the bedrooms, 1 unit. So
90.
say 65 units roughly.
You got one bedroom.
Is there run a cable like this big up for the service?
Yeah, they're gonna be so efficient. This building's gonna be close to
Yeah.
almost nothing to operate.
Oh, that's right.
the,
It'd be less power consumption than if you had just normal window unit air conditioners.
Yeah, okay.
No, I love the technology.
Thank you.
the cost, just last point, and then we'll get out of your hair. On the 10% issue, it's not as if it's a cash grab, because the project does not model out to be profitable in the beginning at all. It's a debt service issue. And we can give you more info on that to articulate what the bank is looking for in terms of debt service. And if we reduce the profit, the gross profit in any way, it's going to make the debt service more tricky for this deal. And it may make it not feasible to build the project. And that's one of the challenges. So that's why we're looking at,
We
Big
would certainly
difference.
look
This
at
is
any of
my-
these.
my argument. Actually, the higher level of all of this is that we actually have a housing shortage in our community.
Correct.
And we actually need to build housing.
yeah, we need housing at all levels, affordable, market, luxury, all markets.
There's a great saying. What's,
I hear the rest of what you were saying.
oh, sorry.
You want-
I'm sorry.
my point was that I think this is an important project to consider, not just on the parameters of these very specific things, but from the higher level perspective. We need housing, and I'm glad that you.
Thank you.
There's a saying, 0% profit of $0 is zero, right? So something is gonna get built there, all right? You'll work it out, because it's land that
Agreed.
needs to be developed. So what we're trying to do is, you know,
Roller
as.
skating rink would be really cool.
Guys, we're gonna talk a lot more about this. We will try to move it along as we go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
for
thank
your
you.
time.
All righty,
Thank you very much. If you're welcome to reach out to us like that too, I'm always open to chatting.
let's, can I get a motion then to open up a public hearing for 64-66 Plains Road? Second,
Aye.
all in favor? Aye. All right, we have some folks here who have come to speak for 64. First of all, just real quick, is there anybody on Zoom who'd like to speak for 64-66 Plains Road for the public hearing?
Nita and Neil, the architect, are on the screen.
Oh, that's who that is? Okay. We have two ladies here who'd like to speak, village residents, I suppose. Why don't you come up one at a time? Are you together or are you speaking separate? Well, if you're speaking, if you both intend to speak, one at a time, because it's not a question and answer. It's,
Sit here, but I will still let her speak and then I'll speak after she's done.
okay, that's fine.
That's okay?
You can sit next to her and support
Just don't interrupt her.
her. Well, yeah, really, because it's not a question and answer. You come up, you're gonna make a statement, and we put it into the record. And we strongly can, listen and consider what it is that you have to say.
All right, so actually, I came here for clarification.
Introduce yourself.
Jamie Lewinbrough. I live at 65 Cold Road. So this proposed
65 Plains Road.
project is directly across the street from my property. So if we cannot get some clarification on exactly what this means, there's no, if we can't ask a question, I don't see why we're here.
Well, I'll be fair. The best thing you have done is probably go to when you get that public notice like that, is to go to the building inspector and request maybe you can get a copy of the variance and he'll show it to you and you get an understanding. We really can't do that in a public hearing. You're welcome to sit and we're going to call the applicant up and he's going to reiterate the project one more time. Ashley, I could close it right now and then I can close it permanently if so choosing, if they hear what the applicant has to say and don't have any questions. Am I correct by that?
Yeah, I think it would make sense to perhaps start out, the applicant can give a little summary and overview of the project, and then if they have any comments, or questions after that, you could turn back to them.
So I'm going to temporarily just close the public.
No, you don't need to do, I wouldn't even, just keep it open and, yeah, and while it's open, you could ask the applicant to give the
Why don't
summary.
we give you a couple minutes with the map and then we can have them talk and we can sort of do a shuffle and you can sort of see what they want to do. Let people speak for a second, maybe.
I don't think they're going to be able to speak off that map. You're going to need to hear what they have to say and what the
Yeah,
variance is
I
about,
think
correct?
listening to
Well, you
them
can
and
take
then-
that over there.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to do is we're going to,
Okay. I think this thing's right there. Yeah, this is opposite me. Yeah.
I'm going to ask the applicant to come up and reiterate, to go through the project one more time. If you have the way it'll work out is if you then have a public comment you'd like to make, we're going to have you come over and do it. If you can make it, I'll then close it. And we would then begin to make a debate on, we have some parameters that we use to whether or not we would then grant the variance or not. So I'm going to have the applicants come up, chat real quick, reiterate the project, which he did. He spoke to us last time about it, but it's always good. We like to have him do it again. So go right ahead.
Okay,
Who else we have? Anybody else going to come up or just yourself?
no, just me for now.
Okay.
And Anita and Neil are on screen if they want to participate.
Just introduce yourself, guys.
You know me, Ed Kramer, I'm representing Discovery Institute. The project involves subdividing a piece of property that is already accessed from Da Vinci Way. Anita Falcone, who's on screen, lives there now. and she would like to buy the house. So this is an existing house that's at the end of Da Vinci Way. So what we need to do is subdivide so that she can purchase the house. The glitch that we're facing now is the fact that 100 years ago, it used to be a chicken farm. And as a result, there are old foundations around, retaining walls that span across the line that we want to create as the boundary. And that needs a variance in order to be acceptable. So the problem is there's a 6-foot retaining wall in the back there that's holding up a plateau of dirt that spans across this line. And if we took it down, we wouldn't have anything to hold up the dirt. So we can't replace it with another retaining wall because it's going to have the same issue. It's going to span across this property line. And the slab is an old chicken farm, used to be a chicken farm building. And that's just sort of the foundation of one of those existing buildings. So there aren't going to be any new construction. It's the existing house. The woman who's living in it would like to buy it. We've done everything else necessary in order to make the subdivision happen. And it's just a question of getting the variance to make it possible. So the access will still be from Da Vinci Way, as it has been and will continue to be. So there's nothing going to be done on the street side. I think it's necessary for us to have a road frontage as a plus. Otherwise, everything is exactly the same. Same person's living there, same person's going to buy it. And there's going to be no addition as far as people living there. So that's the crux of it.
Thank you, Ed.
Okay.
So,
Go ahead, Sean.
so you can't have a retaining wall between two properties, or you can't have.
If I could jump in there, Sean, because there is a provision of the code that allows, although they have requested the variances for the fence retaining wall, the code
Yes.
does allow fences and walls to be located anywhere on a lot. So I don't
So the-
believe that the variance is needed for that. I believe it's just for the patio, unless because of the height of the wall that triggered.
So if they rip the patio out, they don't need to have any variance. So we're sitting here on a couple $100,000 deal, and it's being held up by a patio?
Well, the patio is substantial. I mean, it's
You don't have to rip the whole thing down. You got to rip out 4 feet by the length of it. You don't have to rip the entire thing out. You just got to rip out a little bit of it. Drop a blade, pull it out. Then you don't have to do this. You don't have to do anything with us. I mean, this thing looks like the property line's a nightmare. It goes everywhere. It's the water lines are weird. The sewage lines are weird. I want nothing to do with this. This, I don't want my name associated with this. I look at everything in this and it bothers me. It's like nothing was done. There's not one thing in here that's done for the next person to own the house. You have a property line that jogs around a building that you can easily move. You have a shared patio that's going to be two people's property. And when it breaks 30 years from now, when this person isn't living there anymore because we all die, it's going to be a huge issue. And it's so easy to fix. Just drop a blade, pull out 3 or 4 feet of patio and call it a day. You don't have to come to us then, and then we don't have to be associated with this. I'm not seeing this. There's so many weird things on this. You have a water line that goes around. The water line starts on one property, goes to another property, and then comes around. How many buildings does that water line hit? Cody,
the water line coming from the street goes directly to the house we're talking about.
Not according to the plans you gave us. The plans you gave us.
The water line does it, the septic, are you referring?
The septic is different.
The septic jump.
The septic was created when Discovery Institute owned all the property.
There's just so many things on this that are going to screw the next owner. I'm just looking at this. If
If the owner wasn't someone who has their ideals align affiliation with the rest of this property, it is bizarre.
Well, I can tell you,
It's
I can tell you
bizarre.
this, if I could just speak about it.
Of course.
And that is that, yes, the situation is not for everybody. I can tell you that. Nevertheless, I can guarantee that it has so many other features going for it in terms of beauty, privacy, and a sense of community back there, that I'm sure there would be no problem in having people interested in buying that property and being willing to share the expense of the septic maintenance.
I wouldn't be concerned about them joining the concept of this. I'd be concerned about the fact that whether we like it or not, a lot of the people buying properties in the area are people from the city, other places. If
This
we
property is
do
eventually
this
gonna go
and
to
it
somebody
goes up for
else.
sale,
I'm not worried
It's
about
the
now.
rest of
I'm
it.
worried about 60 years from now.
All right, that's the point.
So if I could speak to
Well-
that, because this did come up before the planning board as well. So the applicant had proposed a shared easement and maintenance agreement for the structures that are going to be located on both lots. So that way it would be something that runs with the property, filed much like a deed in the county clerk's office. So it would show up on any title report that would make any, prospective owner 30 years from now aware of their obligations to, share in the maintenance of the structures that are going to be located on both lots.
Yeah, I do want to stress that we go through the 5 factors of this, guys, where we really, as far as what our personal preference would be, as far as an ownership agreement, that's really not the way we base it on. Okay, guys, so it may not be optimal for us, but that's not really a basis to what we want to, how we want to award a variance or not award a variance. Okay, we
So
gotta go through
in considering though, potentially adverse impacts on the physical or environmental conditions and, thinking of potential maintenance issues in the future, I think that if you were to require something like that, that would certainly be an appropriate requirement. But I'm not saying that's one way or the other, that's a decision
I
maker.
would love to hear the neighbors' feedback or comments. Whenever that's the right time.
If you're ready to speak, the public hearing is open. I would just ask Ed to just to sit back for a second.
Also,
Perspective, I came over for clarification. I had actually no idea how to interpret this.
I agree with you. I don't know how to interpret this. I see chaos
Well,
here.
she's referring to the.
I
public
know
hearing.
that. I'm saying that, maybe that's tongue in cheek.
You're talking about, I've lived there for so many years and was only in one house, and I totally agree with you about how everything is so crazy.
Yeah, and
Well,
you,
hold on, it's not, guys, if we got a public hearing open, you're gonna speak.
I'm sorry, can you ask them to speak, to come to the table and speak into?
Thank you, I'm doing it,
My
Ed.
name's Kim Squillis. I live at 63 Plains Road, and I live probably directly between the new construction and the old house. And I've lived there, as I said, many years, where there was none of these other houses there. And that's why you're crazy looking at those things. The septic goes over here. Everything was done like crazy over there because it was all under one property. And everyone that lived there under the Discovery umbrella, right? This person buying a house, I have real concern a little bit for them, buying a house. Is that going to be on the tax map? Is that going to be part of Discovery still?
No, it's on the
Someone living
tax
there?
map.
So they're going to pay taxes?
Real quick, guys, it's not a discussion,
No,
it's only a statement. She can ask the question. What we'll do is we would then have you, once I close the public hearing, you can address it.
Yeah, well, I'm just asking these to be on the record. I don't expect
Sure.
an answer. You don't answer, you don't answer, okay? But that's some of the concerns I have. This is gonna be on the tax map. I have a concern for the person buying this house too. They're my neighbor. They've been there for a while. What bank's gonna give you a loan on a house that shares a septic tank or something? So there's all kinds of things with this property, I think that there's some concern about. I'm very happy that it's gonna be on the tax map. I'm also very happy that they're gonna be using Da Vinci Way. I don't know, maybe they use it now, not a question. So those are just some of the concerns that I have. But I totally agree with the gentleman over there about the, looking at the map, and you also making a remark about the septic shared septic and everything, because I was there when all these houses were built and the way it was done, it was
If there was one straight line here, it would be,
Not good.
Let me close.
but we're really.
Let me get the, let me.
It's over a patio. This
All right,
is,
hold on, guys, before, we can't get into a discussion in a public hearing. So then I just want to say, is there anything else that you want to offer?
Oh, that's it.
Is there anybody here who has anything else that they'd like to offer and come up and speak for the public hearing for pro or con for 66 Plains Road? Is there anybody on a Zoom? All right,
Can I say one more thing?
no, it's a public hearing,
I see,
Ed.
okay.
So I'm going to close it, then you're going to speak as much as you want. So then, with that said, I'm going to have a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion.
Can I second?
Aye.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, so now we're back into a discovery discussion mode with the applicant. We've heard what whoever was like to come in from residents or public at that time toward this, which is taken into consideration. I'll also give the applicant a chance now to answer any questions that one of the speakers who came up and spoke. If you'd like to, answer any of that as far as tax rolls and things like that, this is the time to do it.
Yeah. As I said, that whole parcel on the other side of the Vinci Way, where the houses have been built, all at one time belonged to Discovery Institute. And over the years, people have built houses there and they're all on the tax roll. Same with when Nick built his house on the other side. His is on the tax roll. Yes, it is.
That-
Well, it has happened. I'll tell you, Kim. And then also this building that we'd like to sell is also going to go on the tax roll. So if that's your concern, I can tell you that every house that's been on there is now on the tax roll. And in fact, these are it'll be 7 households, tax-paying households that will be on the tax roll after this one's sold. So if anything, that's contributing to the tax rolls in the town, or the village, I should say.
Noah, do you want to continue? You have a line of questioning for the applicant? You want to continue? You have anything you want about questions on this variance? Okay. How about you, Code D? Sorry about that, pal. All right, Sean, do you have more questions that you want to?
I don't understand why we can't have one straight line on a property line. I'm just envisioning my house, me buying this house 50 years from now and trying to put a fence up and looking at all the corners you got to do it. And it's not normal. I don't know why we can't have one straight line. It's like, there's not one line that matches that's 90 degrees to any other point. Oh, no, I'm sorry, there's 190. Is that 90 degrees? You got 190-degree corner.
I mean, I see a lot of property lines in the village that are not straight lines, especially on properties that are outside of the normal small community in the village with a 1/4 acre plot or 1/8 acre. This is a bigger plot. I lived on a piece of property that was jagged like this too. Now, I'm not saying that the septic is an optimal situation, okay, but that's really not, it is an impact on the environmental conditions are already set.
Yeah.
Okay, they're already set regardless of what happens as this goes. So, I mean,
Nothing in the house is gonna change. If this doesn't sell. it's
that's
sitting
exactly
there.
right. It's the same septic system as it is before.
The shed scenario with the property line is odd, but that's not actually what we're referring to.
It's just,
We're referring to the patio.
I think
Like,
the
I
easy
think that
solution here is to
if
drop
I,
the
if
blade
I
and
were
get rid of
buying
the
it,
patio,
Let's,
like a normal person.
that could be fixed.
That's what you do.
I tell you what we'll do. Why don't you guys prepared? You want to go through these 5 factors and have a
Yeah, I'm
discussion around them? Everybody's ready. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. What we do now, whenever we decide that we're gonna offer, whether accept or deny a variance is based on the type of variance it is. This is an area variance and it comes with 5 factors that we debate about and see what the impact is. Now, there are some that always have a certain degree of impact to them, okay, regardless. But that's weight in the overall sense. So as far as jumping in and saying, well, oh, wait a minute, it's not that. Okay, so we weigh each one based on what that percentage is. Before that, I put this open to debate among the board and to go through these questions. Is there anything else that you'd like to offer before I do that? Is that the potential buyer
Yes.
there?
Yeah, she was here last.
Okay, hello.
They're on.
Hello.
mute.
Okay.
Yes.
As a buyer of the property, you're okay with the border as drawn? You're accepting this, correct? I'm just
Correct.
asking, again, okay. All right. We don't issue variances. We, obviously, when we issue a variance, it is in some ways perpetuity. We have a lot of people come up in front of the board and they want to, it's an owner occupied house and they want an apartment downstairs. And I've had one come and say that that person was going to live there for the next 20 years and we issued the variance and they sold the place the next year. So when we do consider variances, we do try to consider a long-term implication to them, okay? But we also consider a short-term as well, and that's just as important. All right?
Yes,
with
and
that said-
the variance runs with the land. So, property always can change hand in the future and the variance is gonna run with the land so long as that condition that requires the variance remains.
Good.
On that note, I just like to let you know where my head's at is if the person, like, because the applicant is the Discovery Institute, the current owner. If the person that is buying this wasn't here saying that they were fine with it, I would be like, this is insane. Just spend the money to get an excavator and tear this out. So that makes me wonder why her being okay with that
Yeah.
changes that for me.
It
Because
doesn't.
ideally she'd live there and have whoever, carry on in the house, but you can't guarantee that. So in my mind, if you were an applicant and you didn't have a potential buyer, I'd be going, well, no way. Like I wouldn't even be considering it. I'd be closer to where Sean's at with it. So
Such a
That's-
simple solution.
yeah.
It's
Well, we were
hundreds
talking,
of dollars of work on hundreds of thousands of dollars of property. We're talking 1/4% of the value of the property to fix this and not involve us.
it was my understanding, at the last meeting that the issue was the retaining wall.
Yeah,
The
that's
retaining wall
definitely
is a
changed.
different issue. I hear you.
So
I
now
hear
that you
Sean.
know that it's just the
Patio.
concrete pad that you could just fix yourself, don't you think that makes more sense? Since it's such a minimal cost for the
Okay.
property.
Well,
You're
I
talking
can't-
like, we can do the math here. I'm gonna say it
No, I
costs
know.
$500. So what is the property being sold for?
I don't know yet. But I understand your point. I thought at the time that we had to talk about tearing down the retaining wall, which I thought was not a good idea because of the fact that it's holding up 6 feet of
Of
dirt.
course, that would change the entire layout.
And now this slab does go up to that retaining wall. And it may in fact even go under the retaining wall. So I'm concerned that there's some sort of compromise to the retaining wall that's there. If we start digging away the patio that it's sitting on.
Just cut it. You cut it and
Well,
rip it back.
I mean, it used to be the back wall of a chicken coop, 6 feet high, and the dirt was put up to it. And the slab was the floor. Yeah, all right, so then my concern would be that you would have to I'd be concerned about taking the patio out and compromising
Okay.
the
Well,
retaining wall.
Assuming you sold the
Yeah,
property,
let's do it.
Let's do our business and.
assuming you sold the property for 250, which would be on the low end for New Paltz.
Yeah.
It's 0.2% of the cost to not be here. I can't, in good conscience, to save 2.2% on a sale, say yes to anything. That's ridiculous. I would never, we're talking, this is a serious thing to get a variance where you're gonna have something that's go for 100 years. No, forever, infinity. For that amount of money, it's not, I can't, I'm having a huge issue.
All right, well,
So
let's do,
so
let's
you're
go.
fine with leaving the retaining wall there?
I can't make you do that. That's not in the code. It's been explained, right? That you don't have to move the retaining wall. The
Okay,
retaining
what
wall is
about-
fine. So all you have to do is get rid of the patio and you don't have a problem anymore. I don't understand why 0.02% of the cost of this project is making us go to a
Was
meeting.
the issue that the retaining wall isn't a landscaping retaining wall, it's a foundation to a previous building?
It's not it's just a retaining
It-
wall,
Well,
because there's no building there anymore. So it's a slab, it's a retaining wall with a slab on top of it. So you
I
just,
mean, I'm asking from, like, because initially we were talking about this wall. But
no, we figured that out really quickly in the last meeting, that the retaining wall was not part of the problem. That was discovered right in the beginning, and then we talked about that. And then the client, the woman who was buying the property said it was gonna cost $250,000 to fix it. And I said, please show me that and give me some proof of that. And she said, sure, she'd bring it. We haven't gotten it yet. I'm having a hard time with this just. 'cause
I understand it, but I'm not here to say whether or not $500 is a lot of money or $1,000 is a lot of money to somebody or not. We're already debating point number 2 without even realizing it.
Okay.
So why don't we just go through these 5 factors, we'll weigh them out, and we'll see what we come up with. A lot of times I think. Let's try it that way. So, all right, the first factor we look at, guys, is an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of this area variance.
No, I don't think so.
Yes, because you're gonna have two neighbors holding a property.
Hold on, and this is
You
not
have
a
two
debate.
neighbors holding a property and that are gonna be sharing maintenance on something that they don't have to do. So you're gonna have two people.
All right,
It's
now,
gonna cause conflict with your neighbor.
well, we can't, listen, now, a detriment to me is something that we do and it's guaranteed to hurt somebody. All right, we get rid of a wall and it causes, and there's a risk to a flood. All right, I don't know anybody's personality, so I can't, to me, that's not a hard yes, that it's a detriment. Okay, it's not, it maybe not, but as far as,
issue, a detriment?
no, or the character of the neighborhood. Is it going to affect, I've been on that property. It's not going to affect the character of the neighborhood at all. That's just the first. So I think. All right, number 2, the benefits sought by the applicant, this is gonna be a long one, guys, so just get ready. The benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance. Now take our time on this. Okay.
Yeah, we've already talked about this. Yes,
Okay,
they can
so-
easily do it.
I now, Noah, how do you feel about that? Let's hear it out if you agree with Sean to an extent, or what level.
The question of feasibility, yes, it is feasible. The answer is yes.
Okay, obviously it's feasible. Do we know a cost? Do we know a quote?
Is it desirable? Like
Is
that's-
it desirable to churn that up and cut that in half on a piece of property where there's nobody at?
There's a lot of-
I don't know. There's definitely, there's some truth to what Sean is saying. So there's, again, we weigh all these factors. There's no factors. Some of them are 100%. Some of them are 90-10, some of them are 50-50. But it doesn't preclude, not granting a variance based on it. So there is, I think that's fair, that there are other methods. There's lots of other methods beside that one, to be quite honest.
Put a beautiful garden in there.
Ken?
Put a blade, drop a blade.
Okay, so is the area variance substantial? And I think when we a lot of times we go by size on that. I think in this instance, I think you could weigh it out to the what the impact is on the environment there, the size of it, not doing anything. Is it more work? Something like that.
I don't think it's significant.
I also.
Yeah, I don't think it's. a huge-
Okay, I don't think it's, so it's really a small variance, right? We can say that. It's a small area.
Yeah, it existed.
Okay.
And just to clarify on that, because it is technically a 0, seeking the 0-foot setback, but you're considering that it's small, given the circumstances, the structure itself that the variance is
Yes.
sought for. No.
Exactly.
The dimension isn't what's bothering us as much as the existing
Layout.
layout. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. And we start to my left.
No, I don't think that.
Yeah, I'm not going too crazy about that one. That's fine.
You're fine, okay, all right, so. The alleged difficulty was self-created, which is relevant in the decision of the board, of course, as most variances are self-created in some ways. I'm gonna let it's self-created in the regards that they want to get rid of it. Is it self-created that it was there before they got there? And is it really functional as part of? You ask yourself the question, is it it was there when they got there. Is it functional to what they want to do? Is it simply, if they don't mind jagging the boundary, they can, if they can actually rip it up? Are we okay with giving them that choice and giving them the variance and say, okay, well, instead you can put the boundary around it?
What's the question?
Yeah, it's a good point. How self-created is it, is what we're saying.
I think generally my position is they're always self-created.
I agree.
Yeah,
The
this is-
choice to subdivide it is.
Yeah, exactly.
is-
So, well, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, it was there, but it is, it is being subdivided.
They can also.
But
fix
that's
it
always,
without
always the
using it.
case.
Yeah,
Like, it is-
it's just the level of that. So what we do now, I'm gonna ask, I have to ask our attorney to, Ashley, the wording of this, I spoke to the mayor about how we draft this. And we could theoretically, from what he said, we could vote on this now and then have you draft a resolution on how we vote. He was okay with that. How do you feel about that?
Yes, you've done that in the past. Normally you would have the resolution drafted beforehand. That way you're clear on these circumstances, but you can certainly do it either way.
Yeah, the reason why is we have a board of 4 people now, and 3 people are required to vote in favor to get something to pass, or 2 and 1 abstention. Am I correct by that?
No, so you need a majority, so you need 3 to take action. So 2 to 1
so-
would not.
So 2-1-1
be in
would not work either, correct? Okay, all right, so we know the deal. So the one I'm going to ask for then, before we draft the decision, we're going to have a vote. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Can I make one? real
sure,
quick
we got
statement?
time. I don't need to jump.
So,
into it.
yeah, I just, when Ashley mentioned about like the making sure that, I forget the wording of, I think it's number 3, like how much of a,
It's substantial.
yeah, how substantial the variant is. The pre-existing part is what's making this kind of weird, because if someone was sitting here wanting to put a patio up to their property line on a property, that seems really substantial. But the pre-existing, and it's not even being used, it's not for a function, it just exists.
Have you guys seen what it looks like out there and everything? Have you seen it? Has anybody gone out to the property? Okay.
But
I don't
on that note,
understand.
the fact that it is pre-existing and essentially, like, it's not really serving a function or not serving a function,
It's just lazy. It's just, you want to save some money.
that's not what I was.
Lazy is a
getting
better
at,
So I think you're saying as opposed to if it was a swimming pool that was gonna be, something that was
Well,
perhaps
or even
being
a-
used all the time, that was across or so,
Yeah,
and that's
or
why
even
the substantial factor always doesn't come down to, the numbers themselves. There's
Yeah.
circumstances beyond that to consider.
As you look at a property line or you weigh out bringing out equipment out there, and you weigh these factors and you decide the impact of each, and then you vote. It's the way.
Yeah, I mean, I think the negative of doing it the right way is so small on the side scope of the project.
It could be small either way. I'm be honest with you. All right.
You're right, you are right. I agree with you on that. It's small either way,
Small.
but I'm
So
sort of
that's my
like,
point.
my go-to is if you can do it without us, you should do it without us. That's always my rule of thumb that I try to be consistent with.
Ashley, I'm going to call for a motion to have a vote on this. Read it off. Chair votes last. Can I get a motion then to take a vote on?
So the motion would either be to approve or to deny.
Yeah. So I like to get a motion then to
And I'm
approve.
sorry, if I could just add either a motion to approve or deny, subject to your adoption of a written decision at your next meeting. So you're going to take the action today, and then you're going to have the written decision memorializing it at your next meeting. But either a motion to approve or
I think
deny.
we're doing it
All right, I'd like to get a motion to approve the application ZB 22 -08 for 64-66 Plains Road. And then we will adopt a written decision memorializing that approval or denial of that request at the next meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Second,
now. Aye.
all in favor? Aye. All right, so what we like to do, Autumn, is please call a roll. I don't care call it in the order of seniority. Please, we'll go in that way. And I think that would be Cody, Noah, Sean, and then myself.
Youngest person.
Age before beauty. That would be me first. I'm 55. All right, guys, no, it's, we have an applicant that's. So. Yeah, we're ready to go.
Aye, yes, approved.
No.
Approved. So with that said, motion ZB 22-08 variance has been approved for the applicant. If you have any further questions, you can contact the building inspector. We've got Ashley, you've got the motion in to go ahead and get a written decision of that, which we'll put in the record for the next meeting.
Yes,
All right. All right.
but
we
they
have some
should
more-
return then back to the planning board with this approval.
Yeah, you'll go back to the planning. Okay. Okay.
That's it.
That's it. Thank you.
all.
All right, thank you, guys. All righty, we have some more business.
Oh, is there?
Good argument. Fair
I'm
argument.
ready to go.
Yeah, that was a fair argument. It was a fair point. I don't deny it.
I think good points all around.
No, I think it was a fair point.
I liked Cody's thing of if this was not, if the seller wasn't there, this would be completely.
But it came up with two
conversation.
brilliant points. The point on catching the height and the 10th and what the height means to the overall rents, yet how you get that conundrum is pull that out. It's very nice, Cody. I didn't even think of that. Okay, so we got a few things. We want to make the approval of the November meeting minutes. Has everybody had a chance
Yeah, they're
to review them? Okay, can I get a motion and to put them into the record? Second,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Is there any village board updates that we should know about? Take that as a negative. Ashley,
Go to God.
ribbit. Ashley, do you have anything that you want to add to what we talked about this evening? It was kind of a more exciting debate than we normally have.
Nothing for me.
Okay, so with that said, can I get a motion then to close the meeting of December 13th for the New Paltz Zoning Board of Appeals?
Make a motion.
Second,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I like this. You motion, I second.
Yeah.
We can see each other. It's like speeding things up.
All right, so we'll have some discussions. I have some news on. And I did speak with the administration. of the village board. I can't get into a forum right now, but I didn't have time to. Okay, good night.
Have a good night,
night,
everyone.
Everybody, have a great night.